What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we got a small update for Modern Warfare 3, and with this there were several bug fixes as well as a little bit of weapon balancing. We saw some nerfs to the JAK Tyrant Kit for the Longbow, as well as the JAK Maglift Kit for the Haymaker. And in today's video, I wanted to cover all of these changes in great detail. But before we get into that weapon balancing, let's go over some of the miscellaneous stuff, at least the important miscellaneous notes from this. First off, apparently, saving a custom mod in the gunsmith will no longer remove certain camos, and these certain camos tend to be the mastery camos, so like Interstellar for instance. Up until now, it's been impossible to save your custom setups with that Interstellar camo. It would just come up with an error essentially and remove the camo. So that one is finally fixed with this update. Next, for the SOA Subverter, the camo challenges were all messed up. I think I had gilded immediately when I first unlocked the gun. And then there was another challenge that just wasn't tracking properly, so apparently they've got that resolved and they should be tracking properly for you right now. Then we saw a notable spawn adjustment in Skid Row on Hardpoint. What they've done here is they've added additional spawn points to decrease the probability of an unfavorable flip. And this one's definitely more for the competitive players out there to really get things under control, although you may notice this adjustment in public matches as well. Additionally, something that's quite nice to see, at least for me, because I'm in private matches a lot, they've increased the maximum player and bot count from 12 up to 24 in private matches. So if you're somebody that likes to mess around in private matches and you want to have even more people or more bots in private matches, we can now do that. Then for a few attachments in the game, they basically just adjusted the descriptions for these without actually changing the performance of them in order to better match their actual performance in games. So like with the Ascent Lord stock on the Holger 556, for instance, they revised the description for that, as well as with the FR 556, the FR Sprinter and Recon stock pads. They've adjusted the description on that because previously it said that they helped with sprint speed, when in reality they only helped with tactical sprint speed. And then another interesting thing we see here is with the Rival 9, they added, or more accurately just changed the name of one of the muzzles. This was previously a second JAK BFB muzzle. You guys may have noticed this on your SMGs, that there were two JAK BFB muzzles available, although one of them, at least for me, was always locked and the other one was available, like the proper one was available. What they've done with that second JAK BFB muzzle is they've now renamed it to the Trebuchet Break. And with this, we can see the stats on it. It's going to be reducing our ranges by 10%. We're going to get a 25% increase to our recoil gun kick and a 15% increase to our horizontal and vertical recoil, which is excellent. And this only harms our aim down sight speed by 5%. Now, interestingly, they mentioned this was for the Rival 9, and yet when I look at the Rival 9, this is the only SMG where I can't find the Trebuchet Break. All of the other Modern Warfare 3 SMGs have this on their muzzle list. However, at least for me at this point, it's currently locked as well, and it says that you can unlock it by leveling up the WSP Swarm, which I've already fully done that, so it looks like we're probably going to have to wait for a fix to that so we can actually use this. But just looking at those stats, it looks like it's going to be quite a solid option in the muzzle category. I'll be sure to break that down at some point in the future, if it turns out to be as good as I think it will be. And there we go, those are the primary sort of miscellaneous changes that we saw with this update. Now let's get into the weapon balancing that took place, and again, it was just a couple things. The first thing they did is they nerfed the Haymaker's JAK Maglift Kit, the one with the binary trigger, and with this, they didn't touch the damage or the range or anything, but what they did do is they pretty significantly nerfed our hipfire potential. As we can see here, our minimum hipfire spread, like when we're standing still, it's now wider than our maximum hipfire spread before this update. So that's a pretty notable nerf there. And then on top of that, our maximum spread while firing or moving, this has also been increased quite drastically. And this will just make this a lot less consistent, at least, as you start stretching that range out a little bit if you're hip firing. Now, on top of hipfire, they also nerfed our tac stance spread by a pretty noticeable margin. Pre-patch, our tac stance spread with this was 3 degrees. Now it's 4.2 degrees. And that's actually almost as wide as our pre-patch maximum hipfire spread. So that's a pretty drastic nerf to tac stance. But in general, I would say these nerfs are appropriate for the JAK Maglift. It was a little ridiculous pre-patch, and I like the fact that they didn't touch the damage or the range or anything, and instead they just targeted the spread values to make it a bit less consistent if you're just running around hip firing. Now, after this update, you're probably going to want to get yourself aim down sight if you're stretching your range out at all with this kit. Now, let's get into the Longbow. With this, they nerfed the JAK Tyrant Kit, so that iron sight kit that we've got on that. And with this, the first thing they did is they removed the 30% hipfire spread benefit that we used to have with this kit. So now when using this kit, we're going to have the same hipfire spread as the base version of the Longbow, which is very noticeably wider. And honestly, I think this is a great change to this because people were getting around the map, especially in the small map playlists. This was essentially the best shotgun in the game, and yet it's a sniper rifle that has great potential when you're trying to stretch the range out as well a little bit. And in my opinion, at least, that did make this gun just a little too versatile, and there weren't really enough downsides with this, especially if you're playing on like the small map playlists. So I'm actually on board with this change. It's not like it's destroying the JAK Tyrant Kit in all situations, it's just making it less effective in those hipfire situations. But that's not all. Another thing they did with the JAK Tyrant Kit specifically is they increased our aim down sight time from 390 milliseconds pre-patch, which is very fast for a sniper rifle. They increased that up to 470 milliseconds. So that's actually quite a drastic increase to our aim down sight speed. Honestly, that's still a fast aim down sight speed as a starting point, because once you start adding other attachments, you can of course get it significantly better than 470 milliseconds still. And I do think overall, this was an appropriate adjustment to that kit on the Longbow. It still appears to be a great kit, especially if you like iron sight sniping. It's just not going to be quite as amazing and as versatile in those close quarter situations. You're not going to be able to use it quite as effectively as a shotgun as well as a sniper rifle. And with that, there's just one last thing to mention here, and that's the fact that they have restricted the JAK Glassless optic in ranked play, so you will no longer be able to use that. And that's pretty much it. That wraps it up for today's really small update. And in general, I am happy with these changes. I do think that JAK Maglift Kit on the Haymaker was a little too cheesy, a little too easy to use with hipfire. I like the fact that they've toned that back without completely destroying it. It still seems like it'll be a very solid option. And then same thing with the JAK Tyrant Kit on the Longbow. I think they made some nice appropriate changes to that without completely nerfing it into the ground. As far as I can tell, it's still going to be a solid option for you to use. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, of course, these are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this patch in those comments down below. Are you generally happy with the changes you're seeing here, or not so much? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.